Hi friends, I'm Ashley and welcome to Darling Cottage Diary. Today I'm going to be filling in one of the pages, the blank white pages on this So Pretty journal, which the digital kit just dropped on my website, darlingcottagediary.com. So you can go there and download it, print as many pages as you want, as many times as you want for your own uses. In the tutorial for creating this journal without any sewing at all, it is just paper and gluing from the kit itself. I'll link that in the description box below as well as above, and it's two videos before this one. So if you did see that one, thank you for watching and returning. And I'm very excited to be showcasing how you can take a page out and work on it like it's just a flat page of artwork, and then replace it so that you're not fighting with the pages trying to close on you from the binding. That's something that really frustrates me. I love the look of beautifully bound journals, but I really struggle because they try to close on me. And if y'all have been on my channel, y'all know I like thick, chunky journals. Y'all know that I add so many 3D elements and like moss and charms and layers of paper, and I mean some of my journals don't even close anymore because I have just filled them to capacity. And so I'm excited that I'm working in this kind of binding because it allows for not only me to work on it comfortably and flat, but it also allows plenty of chunkiness to be added to the pages themselves. So this is just plain stick glue. I'm not planning on this to hold down this vintage pattern paper. If you are not somebody who likes to sew, that's what this is. I really love pattern paper because it's like tissue paper, but it's a little stronger and softer, if that makes sense. It's like, it's not cloth. It does tear easily, but not nearly as much as like gifting tissue paper. So, and it has a nice feel and sound to it. And then of course it's got the vintage kind of coloring patina on it. You can find these for super cheap at, garage sales and thrift stores and things like that. I got a whole bundle for like, I don't know, a quarter at a local thrift store. And so I knew I wanted to cover up that stark white. That's part of why I left the white, was because I didn't double print when I made this journal, because I knew I wanted to either cover it up with a different medium or I wanted to paint on it. And so this photo matte paper, it does, you can paint with some things on it and use chalk pastels and stuff like that. So I knew I wanted to experiment with that because it is kind of difficult to write on with like my antique quill nib. It's been fine with the modern ones, but I knew I wasn't going to make this a primarily writing journal. I wanted it to be an art one, and so I am excited to fill in all of the white spaces. Probably going to be doing this in a series for a while. So this that I'm cutting out right now is obviously from the kit. Everything, all of the fussy cutting that I'm doing is included in the kit. And this is an embroidery hoop. And I really liked this one. It's one of my personal ones that I just scanned into the computer into my editing software, because it's not round, and I don't find many that aren't round. I like the oblong shape because it reminds me of an antique frame. And so that was the inspiration for what I'm going to be making now. I'm going to be using this as a frame with another fussy cut piece from, it's actually a woman from an antique French postcard. And so that's, the cutting did not go well. I was not feeling great when I was, if you can tell in my voice, I'm still getting over it, but I was not feeling great when I was filming this, and the cutting came out so terribly. And y'all know the cardinal rule of if you fussy cut quickly or terribly, all you have to do is ink the edges, and it's very forgiving. It makes it look much better. So it's my number one tip of anybody getting into art journaling. Just ink the edges. If you don't like how it looks, I promise you'll like it afterward. with this kit, there are 2 pages that have a lot of little interactive elements like this, the scissors, the button cards, it's a needle case card, things like that. And obviously I'm going to be showing how I would use those in my own journals in coming videos. But this lady, I don't know if she's supposed to be Marie Antoinette or if she's just supposed to be a 17th century beauty, 18th century beauty. But she has this look on her face that is like kind of melancholy, but also just like she knows her own business. I don't know. Her expression is very captivating to me, and so I wanted to include her in this and make her kind of overviewing this page, like she's sitting on high, like she's this seamstress who is looking over her maybe she has an atelier and she's thinking about her work. And but it also, because she looks a little bit sad to me, it's like maybe she's going through something. Maybe she had a heartbreak, whether it was with a friend or with a lover, and she's overlooking her atelier in her life, and she's thinking about how, if she just puts her head down and kind of works through it, that she'll be okay. And I don't know, that's very specific, but that story just came to my mind whenever I saw her. And so I wanted to show that, obviously I think as humans we really, really need happy relationships. We need positive, healthy relationships. We're social creatures, and but I think also, particularly for us more introverted people, sometimes our work or our art or our solitude can be rejuvenating, especially when we're going through a difficulty with our relationships, kind of withdrawing inward a little bit and just working through that pain it's healing in a way. It's like you're able to focus on something else, and I'm not talking about where you drive yourself into the ground because you're working so hard and you don't deal with the emotions. But I don't know if there are any other like rage cleaners out there. Tell me in the comments if you get sad or you get upset, do you just like, it's the cleanest your house ever is if you're upset. I am that way. I will go, I will, just do the regular maintenance, but the real nitty gritty cleaning that I'll do, or the fastest cleaning I do, is usually when I'm upset. And I feel like some people are that way with their artwork, and some people are that way with, if they're like a craftsman or a tradeswoman or anything like that, you channel those emotions into what you're doing, and sometimes it's your best work. And so I kind of wanted to convey that of like, she's going through something and she's just putting her heart, she's giving her heart a break, and she's putting it all into her work for right now, into her sewing and into everything. And it's like stitching her heart back together. It's like every physical stitch she's doing, it's calming her down. The idea of small repetitive hand movements actually helps release, I think it's dopamine. I don't know if it's dopamine or serotonin. It's one of the happy feel-good neurotransmitters. I read that somewhere recently. And sewing is, I love sewing when I'm when I'm like working on a problem. I can sit and stitch a couple of hexies or a couple of those little yo-yos that are in the kit, pictures of those in the kit, and just a couple of them, like 4 or 5 of them, or do just a little section of cross-stitching on a project I've been working on since 2020, and all of a sudden the answer comes to me as I'm sitting there thinking about something else, focusing on this one little thing. All of a sudden it's like my subconscious brain is like, oh, here's the answer you were looking for so hard. You just had to stop thinking about it for a minute. So I imagine as she's doing this, she's like stitching her heart back together. And so that was the inspiration behind the whole page. And y'all know me, I love having 3D elements on my pages. So having, of course, actual thread on here, and then having her kind of come up from the page a little bit. I wanted her to stand out a little more than everything else. And then, of course, I'll have a little writing area, a little writing tuck spot area in case I want to go back and write something. But in particular, I wanted the physical representation of her stitching her heart back together to be in her. And if you're one of my ASMR people, you're not particularly keen on the voiceovers, this video, the tutorial for making this journal, and then my next chatty video, I'll be removing the voiceover and stitching them together to make one long hour-and-a-half no talking ASMR video, because that seems to be the best. It seems to be the formula that everybody likes. I've been doing that for a couple of months, and it seems to be working. So just let you know that that is coming, and that'll be a normal thing that I'll continue doing. But back to I guess, what I'm doing here. That type of netting, you could probably use tulle if you're more of a seamstress. You could use tulle, or you could use regular paper if you wanted to. But I liked that netting look because it just looked like more embroidery fabric to me. But obviously it was stiffer than actual fabric, so that's why I used that instead. That little paper pack, I'll put the link for that below as well. But for her, I did want her to stand out, so I'm using these little double-sided sticky foam blocks, and that way she's got some dimension to her. And as far as this is why I did the stitching around the page. Once I put the tissue, the pattern paper tissue, I just glued it very lightly, and then I stitched it because I knew that I was going to be sticking things onto it, and I didn't want the tissue to bubble up and all of the things that I'm sticking on top of it to fall down. So it has the glue behind it to help keep it from bubbling, and then the stitching around it really cemented that it wasn't going anywhere. Plus, of course, I like the aesthetic of the zigzag stitching. So I did want to have a tuck spot for a little writing area, and fortunately, the size of the little brochure, the little French brochure, the pink one in the kit, happens to fit nicely inside the stitching I did on the page, and so I just needed to create a little pocket from that side, and again, stitching it just made sure it wasn't going anywhere, because especially with the extra weight of the tuck spot card, I didn't want the tissue paper to bubble up. I didn't want the pattern paper to bubble up and it fall out, or things just get moved around. So I did stitch that one again. Now, because I did have this theme of stitching her heart back together, I did want to write a little sentiment like that on that blank spot on the pocket, and so I'm going to do that. And then, of course, don't forget to cut your middle slit back in your page, with whatever you cover your page with, so that you can put it back in the journal. It's almost like making sure you put the holes back for your three ring binders, 3-ring notebooks, and we'll replace it. So if you make it to the end of the video, please leave me a feather. If you would like to see a commonplace book update, if you don't know what that is, I have a series that I've started. Basically, I work in all kinds of different types of journals. I work in tiny ones, mini ones, commonplace, different types of art ones. So but the commonplace is writing heavy, and usually talks about things like quotes, scientific data I've found, as well as drawings and things like that. Usually historical or scientific in nature. It's less about stories and personal kind of artwork. It's more of collecting data and thinking about it and talking about it. So if you would like that kind of video next week, please put a feather in the comments. And if you would like something that's back in this journal, please leave me a spool of thread or one of the other sewing emojis, so that I know that you want to keep working on the artwork in this journal with me. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a wonderful week. Again, if you wanted to check out this digital kit, you can head over to my website, and I hope that I will see you next week. Thank you so much for being here. Bye!